This fresh episode continues a question from the video on the 227, which itself was inspired by the completion of a recent governance proposal put forward in the AMP community. And that video was inspired by me researching how to efficiently do grilled steak, which as I watched the weekend cook, well, it started an entire line of asking questions about the AMP token. The link to that video is in the description below. So, what's happening today? Well, what I wanted to do was make sense in this video if the Valora app is the same as the Valora retail company. That's the gist of the first question, and spoiler, we learn something as we go about answering that question. But first, are these two Valoras somehow the same or related in some sort of unexpected way? After all, it's kind of gutsy to name your company with a primary trademark like this. It'd be like starting a new app called the Disney Coffee Company. Welcome to Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, God of the Sea, and in today's fresh episode, we're taking a deeper look at a company called Valora. The exploration starts because I wanted to establish if there's a link between Valora app of Valora Inc. and Valora Retail. But along the way, I discovered some unusual and unexpected connections with another channel favorite. Here we go. Let's begin with a word etymology and definition. What is Valora? As a word, what does that even mean? I have up on the screen a website that attempts to break down what Valora means. I will not cover all of these details because they aren't quite relevant to the larger conversation today, but I did want to note them because it is interesting. As I continue to unpack Valora app, I made an Excel sheet tracking the major company history of the current founders of Valora. In the process, I noticed connections to universities of interest, and even more curious, as it was new to me, that Valora is made up extensively of a lot of Celo executives. Are you an ANKR fan? If so, it gets pretty wild with what I'm about to say. On December 21st of 2021, Brian of the ANKR community posted the following article about ANKR and Celo enterprise apps. And this is quite fun. If you hold ANKR and AMP or have an interest in both of those technologies, this is a great intertwining of three projects: Celo, ANKR, and indirectly Valora. You don't even have to just trust the word of some random internet person this time. Instead, we're going right to the Celo docs. That's right, ANKR is listed here on the Celo docs as a first-class citizen. But does Valora use ANKR for its RPC calls? If you navigate to the careers page of Valora, you'll discover that the majority of the actual code written for the Valora product is open source, and that source code is located on GitHub. The address is github.com/Valora-Inc. Speaking of finding things, I should note this. If you have fun this episode, give me a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button for future channel antics. Now, what's interesting here is if you search GitHub for RPC or ANKR references, you will not find any obvious ones. So let's take a less obvious road. On July 28th of 2021, Valora was approaching 53,000 monthly active users with over 200,000 users with a balance in over 100 countries. What can we do with that information? Well, we could extrapolate it back to RPC calls at ANKR based on public usage to see if maybe there's a connection there, or if there's something even more interesting going on. And if you look at ANKR, you'll discover that ANKR has serviced 69 million requests over the last 30-day window. That is some interesting math. Even more, if you look at the growth of ANKR Celo requests here, you'll note that adoption is increasing. But what I wanted to do was see if we could establish if there was a surface level connection between Valora Retail out of Switzerland that also goes by a handful of other names, and instead we found a plausible connection between Flexa Network, AMP, and ANKR by way of the Celo-backed project from Valora. But let's return to the original question. Is there some other way to evaluate a possible connection? Well, Valora Holdings is a large company with 15,000 employees. This means if they're doing any business in the United States, it'd most likely show up in corporate filings. And after digging around a bit, I did find the registration filings for Valora and Celo. I won't display the raw ingredients because they appear to be some street addresses, and so I'll just note that Renee is one of the listed officers in the connection that's shown on the screen. Renee of Celo. Is Valora connected to the Valora conglomerate in Europe? Does not look like it, but it does raise some questions about Valora Inc.'s longer-term plan to deal with international trademark. The Valora Corporation in Europe is known for a lot of innovation on its own turf, And Switzerland is well known for, wait, isn't that the place of bank secrets? That's certainly pretty interesting. But frankly, for me, the plausible connection of AMP token, Flexa network, connections to MIT cryptocurrency community, and ANKR tokens use, which also implies prime block. This is all some fascinating information. I predict Valora Inc. undergoes a name change if their product starts to see rapid adoption globally. Imagine sitting on a popular product that's going to land your officers in a protracted court discussion over the esoterics of international copyright and trademark law. I might be wrong on that, but could you imagine a small upstart in Switzerland calling itself the GoDaddyApp.com company? A viable counterpoint here does exist with Flexa Network, who is featuring the Valora app as a coming soon option on the Flexa portfolio. The Flexa Network folks are especially good at de-risking their apps and associations, so I'm sure if they've looked at it and concluded they're going to be fine, it's no big deal. That is the extent of my argument on this point, and who knows, the future is mysterious. But I do know this. This is Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, god of the sea and animate milkshake. In today's fresh episode, I showed a dotted line connecting ANKR, AMP, Flexa, MIT, and a blockchain-based project called Valora and Celo. Arguably might run afoul of some international trademarks for Food Convenience Holdings Corporation. How about that? Make waves, my friends.